region that we work in is kind of actually I would roughly say where the letters are here in Cabo Delgado, kind of this area right in here is where we live, and we're kind of stationed there at that point. That's where the most of our ministry takes place. Though we definitely extend beyond there. So I want to talk to you about our Bible school. So our team back in 2010, we purchased a piece of property, and it was one of those things where we were looking for some sort of property so we could hold events and different things. But we realized that, well, anyway, so we found this nice location, but the guy selling it was like a huge piece of property. And we said, we don't need this much property. And he said, well, it's all or nothing. So it was a good price. So we bought it, and but eventually we've now like filled this thing up. We still have some space on there, but slowly grown. So we built this kind of a multi-purpose pavilion, and back in about 2014, 2015, we started to see that we needed to think about for preachers. Most of the work we'd done prior to that had been much more based in local congregations. We really saw the need to like have an opportunity to bring people who are serving in those churches outside. Now, in our area, I honestly can't tell you the exact number. I should be able to in a few weeks, but there's roughly about 60 or 70 congregations. So we go around and visit all these, but to try to do Bible studies in 60 or 70 congregations, and some of them are pretty far out, that's quite difficult. So this is having some sort of school where we could come together. So we started by having these, we would do 2 weeks of schooling. People would come in and they'd take a class. I would teach for a week. One of my teammates would teach for a week. And so in this picture, this is only like half of the pavilion. Behind, we had all these tents set up where these guys were sleeping. So it was like a really multi-purpose type thing. And it was difficult because when you're kind of out in the open like that, your voice doesn't carry. So by the end of the week, I mean, everyone would lose their voice and everything. But we wanted to see what the interest was. And there definitely was a lot of interest. People really were interested in studying and coming to the school. And so we decided we really needed to build some more infrastructure. So we built it up. And the name of our school is the Instituto Teológico de Cabo Delgado, which is Portuguese for Theological Institute of Cabo Delgado. And Cabo Delgado is our province. And we decided to call it an institute because that seems to be the language that most of the people in Mozambique, a lot of schools were called institutes. So we thought, okay, we'll just kind of go with what they know. And so this is the back side of one of our buildings, or kind of like entrance way. But this here's Amy and I, and behind us is our little kitchen area where all the food is cooked. And then this is our classroom. We have 2 classrooms, and we have a smaller room that serves as a library area. So this is our current group of students here. And we can comfortably fit about 30 students. After 30, it starts getting a little cramped, but that's been really great. And then this is like our cafeteria area. So this is where we have our meals, and then also we begin with a chapel service every morning there. So as our school developed, we realized, like, okay, we started getting phone calls from people from further down south, where there's kind of, Mozambique has a bit of a Bible belt down about 8 hours south of us. So it's a ways away. But we got calls from people. They said, hey, we heard you have a Bible school up there. Can we send students? Well, when you're only doing 2-week classes, it doesn't make sense to have people traveling all that far, especially with transportation costs. So we ended up deciding, so we ended up moving to doing 7-week sessions. We did 2 7-week semesters. Doing so, we started to receive students from those areas further south. The areas I was talking about that were further south, we are getting students from all over there. And it's been a really neat thing. It's helped create a lot of unity in the churches, because now the the students in our area are studying with people from down south, and it's kind of a way for us to bless those churches down south that maybe we don't have the time or energy to be able to go down and visit a church that's 10, 15-hour drive away from us. Um, and there's a lot of them. So, and when I say a lot, I went to this one district, which would be kind of like a county, and they said that they have over 100 congregations there in this one county, and they are and the way the congregations work is they have like they're kind of divided into like they call them conferences. So it would kind of be like how here in Rochester you have about 5 congregations that are all here together, and so then those churches will kind of work together to do certain things, and they'll have like group meetings and such. So it's kind of like a similar thing. So you have these clusters of churches working together, and so I've been down there like 3 or 4 times to that county, and there's like 20 other counties in that area, and I've been to like 3 of these clusters, but they said there's like, or maybe I've been to 4 or 5, but there's like still like 10 more I haven't been to. So they're like, you got to come down sometime. I'm like, okay, but it's again, it's like an 8-hour drive down there, and there's quite a few places like that. So yeah, we started developing this, and then it got to the point where we built dorms, because at our first stage we always wanted to see what the need was before we built something. We didn't want to build something that wasn't going to be used, and so we built this. These were the dorms. I say we. I really didn't have anything to do with this. This was all my teammate. He's the construction guy. That's not my gifting. Yeah, so my teammate, and he really headed up this. And so we have 4 of these buildings, and each of them has each of these rooms, I'm sorry, there's 3. Yeah, there's 3. Each of them has, each of those doors there will hold, is a small room that has 2 bunk beds. So basically, we can have 4 students in each of those rooms. So it's kind of tight quarters, but before they were in the second classroom, just all on the mattresses on the floor. And then we realized like 20 guys sleeping on mattresses on the floor wasn't the best setup. So they really enjoyed having their own dormitories, and we can house there up to 36 people, so, which is more than our classroom can hold. So it's been really great. And then here's our we had a graduation a few years ago. Is I think our most recent one, but I think all in all we've probably graduated about 60 students. We're going to have another graduation with probably another 20 or 30 students graduating here in October. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So that's the complete course. Now, actually, we shifted things a few years back, and we realized that we were doing it was like 6 hours a day of classroom teaching time, and it was really intense, and it was kind of a bit much for us as teachers. It was a bit much for the students. So we actually split it up, and we added another class, and so now we actually do 5 classes in 7 weeks. But we also do we've added in some other activities that we do, because we also realize that just teaching in the classroom isn't always sufficient, and there's really some important learning that can happen in teaching outside of the classroom. We realized that there were some holes, and there was things that we wanted to address that we weren't able to in our classes. So our classes are really about half of them are just strict textual classes. We also have a couple like some theology classes, or like we have a marriage class. The marriage one's really really neat one, because we always do that on our second semester, and the students then come with their wives, and so that's really a great opportunity for their wives to see where their husbands are studying, and it's really neat. It's challenging because that class, a lot of the women do not speak Portuguese. So we've done classes both in Portuguese and Makua, but we found it's usually most effective to do it in Portuguese, because that's the language everyone understands. Even in our current area, we have while most of the people would speak some dialect of Makua, even those, some of them they're from further places. They come up to our area and they say, we can't understand Well, it's the same language group, but it's about as different as like English and French or something to them. It's just like I don't understand this. So it's been really interesting to be able to have that. But we have we've had our first we had a group from to the west of us. It's a group called the Yao, which is a very Muslim group, and we had two students who were Yao. We also had a couple students who speak Makonde, which is further north to us, and then along with multiple Makua dialects. Our course now, it's 3 semesters of having five five classes apiece, and it's been a really good. Been really gotten a lot of really good feedback from it. Um, and then we also built this pavilion that is this is the most recent addition. It kind of acts as like part student center, part. Sometimes it's just nice to have if we have something a little bit more informal, we might meet here. So one of the things like in our afternoon, so in the mornings we study, and then in the afternoons, depending on the day, we'll have different activities. So my teammate Jeremy, who's there, he usually leads a class where it's more of a study on spiritual disciplines. He's also done some teaching on spiritual warfare, and then also I've been doing a study through the Proverbs, really focusing on character development, because we find that so many times, like if you're just giving information, talking about growing in your character, that's a definitely a problem. So it's been really neat. I have a lot of fun teaching so it's nice to get in the pavilion, get out of the classroom. It's a little more relaxed. And really what we do is we'll pick an aspect of that they talk about in Proverbs. So we might talk about, for example, honesty. And then we read some proverbs about honesty, and then after each proverb, I kind of ask for them to, hey, have you observed this to be true, or have you ever seen this? It's basically a storytelling time. So everyone gets to start telling stories, and that's a really fun thing because everyone's sharing their different experiences. They get I get to hear some really interesting cultural insights and some stories that are funny, and they tell some personal stories, so they get to know each other really well. We've done some. This is kind of come into our property. This is what it looks like now, and so the school is over to the left side. That's the pavilion right there, and then the white flowers there. Those are actually coffee plants, and they flower one day a year. So whenever they flower, I get out there. And then to the right, and I'll talk more about this later, is that yellow container kind of behind the tree is it was full of Bibles. It's about it had and scriptures and Makua New Testament that we finished a few years back, and that container was full of these. It's now a third full, so 2/3 of them have been sold and are out in the community, and that's been a really, really huge blessing. And then not in this picture, but there's a house over there with the red roof. And then there's a few houses behind there. My house is back behind there. Yeah, so this is so much of our ministry really has kind of over the past couple years really centered around our Bible school students. And so this was a trip I made about a year and a half ago, visiting to this area. It took me about 12 hours to get down there, all dirt roads. No, half of them were dirt roads. But yeah, and ended up meeting up with some current students. They graduated years before, so it was really neat. I think we have in that picture, I think we had 11 of our students there, and so that was really neat. And so one of the things we try to do is use the school. So when the school's not in session, we'd try to go and visit the students and see them where they live, where they're working, and visit their churches. And that's just been a really great way to connect and better understand them, their experiences coming in to our school, but also for them to us just to have a closer connection with them. So yeah, we were had a church meeting. They were teaching Jane how to weave this, weave these into. They were making like a yeah, making a bathroom, like a little making a little bathroom area. So they were weaving them together to make the wall for the bathroom. Um, yeah, that meeting was really neat. We had baptism there, and it was really cool. There was I don't know, I think there was at least 500 or 600 people came to this meeting, and uh, and then they had a baptism. So we had to walk to the river. There was several baptisms, and so you imagine this group of 500 or 600 people all walking and singing, and and then going to the river. This massive crowd. I mean, I had to push my way up just to get that picture, but it was really beautiful. So that's just visiting. This is one. Like I said, buildings there. Yeah, it makes the blocks out of dirt, and yeah, there's a bamboo roof on there with grass, and that's how you build a house in Mozambique. Really, just if you give someone a machete, they can build a house. That's pretty amazing. Um, so, but yeah, while our students are there, we also get to visit the churches that we work with. So we went to a church meeting, and here's some of our students with us visiting. This was a neat meeting. We had, several churches had gathered together um, for this particular meeting. Um, Also, we did a like we sometimes we try to do some sort of service project, and in this particular instance, we had there's a brother who's he suffered a stroke, and he's one of the preachers, and since he suffered the stroke, he's able to preach and such, but he has trouble walking, and so he lives right next door to the church building, but their roof came in, and unfortunately his church is mostly women and elderly men who are also have some similar ailments. So we came and helped them. We actually met up with some other brothers from nearby church who had been to fix the roof on their building. I showed up that afternoon with I don't know, I think I had 15 guys in my car. We were just all crammed in there. We showed up, and these three guys from the neighboring churches had been working all day, and they were discouraged because they said, we're not going to finish this. And then all of a sudden 15 guys get out, and all hands on deck, and we got the building finished. So it was really fun to work together with them, and there they are doing some of the roofing there. And this was interesting. They take bamboos and make the frame, and then they know these certain trees that you can cut the bark off, and then inside there's a layer that you peel off, and then you soak it in water, and then you can cut it into strips, and that's the cord that they use to tie off all the bamboos. So it's just a really fascinating, forceful they are. We also like to have some fun, play soccer, usually one day a week. That's everyone's highlight. I think they really enjoy that. We get out and have fun with them too. And I think it's really something I've learned recently is just how important it is to have fun as a church, as a lot of fun yesterday. I seem to really understand that at this church. Just having fun together is an important part of a church life. Um, Another thing is, so this is one of our brothers, Amis. He's just been a real blessing to us in a lot of ways. But he he's actually one of the elders at the local congregation. He was chosen as an elder last year, along with two other brothers, and he has been helping teaching one of the classes that I'm teaching. So I'm trying to train him to be able to teach, and he's doing a great job. And it was interesting. It's kind of a long process because first he took my class, and then I was offering it again. I asked him. I said, "I'd like you to come back and take my class again." I said, "I know you did well the first time, but I want you to hear everything again." And I kind of told him, I said, "I'd like you to start teaching with me." And so then the next time I taught the class, he came and was my assistant. And so then this last time when we taught it, um, time I teach it, I'm going to be your assistant. So that's kind of the plan, and it's really been been really neat to see him do that, and and the students really enjoy that. And we have a couple of other brothers who help with some of the classes, and you know, my teammate was saying, he said, yeah, he's like, I was walking by Gonzalez, brother's been working in for a long time. He said he's been teaching the class, and he said, I walked by and I heard Gonzalez say something. I didn't hear what he said, but then all the students burst out laughing. He said, they don't do that when I teach. I said, yeah, I know what you mean, but it's great. They know how to connect well with the students, probably better than we do as foreigners. Yeah, so we're primarily using Portuguese. We've done some teaching in Makua, but especially because we're having students coming from a wide region, so, that's kind of that's the best language to work in. And yeah, so here's Gonzalez is the guy with the gray beard there, or and next to him is Oscar, who's one of our recent graduates, and he actually helped me teach a class just a few weeks last month when I was teaching. And so that's been it's been we're trying to get some of the students to be able to really come in and teach alongside us, and it's such a privilege because we've had opportunities to teach some very talented people, incredibly gifted. Um, I mean, sometimes I just think, wow, this person in like America would be like just in a very different situation, but just incredible leadership abilities and talent, and it's really neat to see. Um, but yeah, and in fact, I'd mentioned one of our students like this, but we had another student a few years back who he was actually teaching people Arabic in the mosques. That was his role, was to train people to read Arabic, and he became a Christian after a long process of debating Christians. He's like, there was these guys from the Church of Christ, and I would ask them all these questions. He was doing some like he was doing some sort of to you tomorrow with an answer. And he said they always did. He said after I ran out of questions. So really incredible guy. Incredibly smart. I mean, and what's neat is to see these guys who they know Arabic and they can sit there and they can evangelize Muslims way better than I can. But just an incredible, um, yeah, really neat opportunities. Yes. Yeah, so most of them are already in that role. Most of them are already preaching, and the thing is, in Mozambique, most preachers don't have a formal uh, Bible training, and so we're trying to really. That's one of the things. There's a lot of informal training, but to actually have a opportunity to sit down for an extended period of time and do some real in-depth Bible study, and so we kind of a lot of times. The way we get our students is we reach out to different areas and we'll say, hey, we have a Bible school. We have slots for one or two students from your area, and can you choose the people you send? And so we try to really collaborate or work with the local. They're sending people, and then they can hold them accountable to the work that they do. So they know the character, and we say, we want people who are following the Lord. We don't want people who have sin issues in their lives, or they need to be in good standing with the church. So they need to have a certain level education-wise to be able to follow what we're doing. And that's another limiting factor because Mozambique does have a poor education system, and sometimes, I mean, even someone, and I know this happens all over the world, but even someone who's graduated high school may not always read that well. And so trying to get people who are really able to read well. In fact, go back. No, it's not him. One of our, well, actually, no, Oscar. Yeah, I think Oscar's also he's been one of our literacy. He's been teaching literacy. There's another one of our graduates who's been teaching literacy, and he has just blown everyone away. Now his village has no school, and he's teaching these kids to read, and they're learning to read. And so he said they have 10-year-olds getting up doing the scripture reading because they can read better than the parents can, and they can just read really well in the church. And this program has gotten so much attention. People are sending they're sending their kids to him to teach them how to read. It's really neat just to see that sort of impact that's happening there. Let's see. So I'd mentioned during the sermon that we do our Timothy project, and so a lot of times we'll kind of sit in a big circle. We might play some games or have some discussions. Well, this is a time that we share the reports of the work that each of the students has done, and we also do some activities and games. So this was a fun game where they all had these pieces of PVC pipe, and they had a marble. And the rule was you got to get it all the way to the end of the building, and the marble can't go backwards. It has to always go forward. And so, but there wasn't enough pieces, so then they would have to run around, and it was funny because it was really it was a fun game, and they were like getting discouraged because they kept dropping that marble. Like they worked on this one for a long time, and they would try out different strategies, and someone would have an idea, and if someone dropped it, everyone would be like, "Come on!" And but then we debrief after this, and then kind of say, "Okay, well, was this what happens? What happens in life when this sort of thing happens? You're working in the church, and someone drops the ball. you know, how do you respond? And how do we encourage one another? And how do we work together to figure out how to how to make the work of the Lord go forward? Yeah, we'll do different activities. This was one where we were kind of using some of the books in the library, and that was kind of neat because a lot of people don't ever have an opportunity to really use a lot of theological books or know much about like Bible helps. So that was kind of neat for them just to see the resources that we have. And a number of times we've had students who'll just on like their rest day, they're just spend their time in the library just looking at the different books we have. Um, this is one of our students. He's about to graduate, but he's preaching, and this is kind of a typical. He preaches for a small church. I think they have about 10 to 15 maybe on a Sunday, but he's leading this church, and he's actually preaching with his Bible, and that's the one that's his Bible. If you look at some of them, they have these Bibles that they are worn, and you can just tell that they really have really taken these to really they own it. It's really their scripture. That's the Bible that they prefer to preach out of and teach out of. So like I said, Shalito, he's another one of our students who's going to graduate here in October. And so we visit our students in their churches, and this is another typical Mozambique construction. This is in the class we did. We just went through Exodus, so we have Pharaoh, and he's giving orders. I divide the students into groups, and they were to come up with some sort of skit, and so he's giving orders to have the Israelites make more blocks. And then this was Pharaoh waking up to all those they're like these little fruits. Someone dumped them all on the ground, and they were the frogs, so he was waking up to frogs in his bed. So we have a lot of fun. We did a Passover Seder meal. That was kind of an interesting thing. Kind of explained the Passover, and just especially was a great opportunity to explain how Lord's Supper is really the Last Supper was a Passover meal, and kind of give some context to that. That was really neat. Yeah, we like to have fun. Coming back from church, sometimes we see a mountain, we'll climb it. And so that's kind of a lot of school. We also wanted to share a little bit about the Bible translation. Um, I've been involved with that off and on over the years. Right now, I'm kind of focusing more of my attention on the Bible school in the past. But we completed the New Testament, and we started on some programs to the Old Testament. So one of the things we did was a Psalms project. So this is kind of the first fruits of that. These are the Psalms of Ascent. So we have 15 Psalms here that have been translated, and so this is just an opportunity to start translating. Then we have a group that's now come, and Wycliffe Bible Translators South Africa came and asked us if we would oversee the Old Testament project. So we've kind of overseeing it, and they came and we're doing some training. This is our team. This is so this is my neighbor and friend Sam. He's a Wycliffe Bible translator, and so he's been kind of primarily working with the team. And then this over here is Bonifacio, he's actually got his doctorate. So Dr. Bonifacio, he is he's a guy who had the opportunity to go to college and then university, and then he ended up studying get his doctorate in South Africa, and he's actually all these translations in northern Mozambique, and so we work with him as well. Yeah, and then this was we did a translation last year of the Book of Esther, and we kind of again we were acting out. We try to one of the things we try to do is first do some Bible study and really try to understand before you do the translation, because you really want to understand what you're translating. The guy in the middle is Noe. He's one of our students. He's one of our graduates that came through our school. And they do a lot of audio recordings, and so this is our little recording studio where they're doing some translation, and they try to do it in a very oral way. This is another one of our students, Rikitu, and we were visiting a church. This church was they were meeting under a mango tree because their building had lost its roof in a cyclone the previous year. But yeah, we continue to visit churches. This is one of our. This is a local church in town, and the brother standing there, he's also one of our elders. We now have 3 congregations that have elders, and we're really excited about that because that was one of our starting goals, was that we wanted to see elders in each of our congregations, and or not, well, maybe not in all of them, but we wanted to see in in the healthy ones, the ones that were ready. And so it's really exciting to see now 3 churches that have elders. And yeah, so this is another church. They have a tin roof on this one. A lot of times, if churches are able to, this church, they had a tin roof, and the cyclone blew it off. And so we helped them. And a lot of times, what we do with churches with their construction is like, we don't build the buildings for them, but we say we will help you. So a lot of times, people will, get the wood. They'll chop the wood or go out into the woods and cut it down and for like the roof structure, and then we'll help with the tin roof. Oh, this was the remains of a vehicle that had been burnt by insurgents. Yeah, we have a Islamic insurgency in our area. Thankfully, they mostly walk around on foot, so it's pretty easy to keep tabs on where they are and which direction they're heading. It hasn't been too close to us, but this is a road that we go down fairly often. So when we start hearing of things going on, we're usually on high alert. So a lot of times what ends up happening is, and we kind of have to keep our plans flexible. We hear, oh, the insurgents are over on this side. Well, we're not visiting any churches over down that road. We'll go that way instead. There's, like I said, with 60 or 70 churches, there's plenty of churches to be visited. But it is something that we have to constantly keep tabs on. In fact, there was a village that had been attacked a few years ago by the insurgents, and a lot of homes were burnt, and it was in a difficult time. So we had brought down food and clothes and did some relief work there, and there was 90 homes that were destroyed, and so we were able to, and I think 3 or 4 of them were of believers, and so we were able to help out those those families especially, but also did a general help for everyone. Um, Most of the time it's pretty far off, like I would say 2 hour plus drive away. That one, I think it takes me about 3 hours to get to that area. Um, yeah, and then sometimes we'll have like refugees coming in. So this was like a while back. We put together these little packets that people could, and again it was great to have the scripture, so we could then put the scripture so that not only are people receiving some help, but they're also some, yeah. So put in some just little help. Maybe it's not a lot, but it just told. You'll see cars just loaded down with people who are trying to flee. A lot of times they're coming to our area because our area is one of the safer um, parts of the country. This is actually a church that was founded that is I think I mentioned we're training one of their ministers, but this church is primarily made up of refugees from further north. They've come an area about 4 or 5 hours north of us, and they've had quite a few baptisms. Um, this was some cyclone that was um, so yeah, we did some cyclone relief. I also have a goat project. I have about 40 goats or so. Uh, this is really neat. This is a meeting that the local elders called. They organized this meeting, asked us to help a little bit, but they invited church leaders from all over the area, and this was really one of the most beautiful things. At the end of this meeting, it was like a 2 or 3 day meeting. At the very end, the elders, to kind of before everyone went home, that they washed everyone's feet, and it was just really a beautiful picture. They really wanted to show that leadership is really about serving, and yeah, this is this is some of our friends. This is one of the mountains in town. Um, Amy and I and our kids, we all like to go hiking a lot. So this is kind of behind me. That's our town of Munchpoy. So pretty large town. I think we have about 100,000. I'm just guessing. 2/3 of the statistics I make up. But yeah, so we like to go on various hikes, and it's a beautiful country. Uh, did a census, it was right around 30 million. And the million or something. I'm sure that's been a few years. So we're probably over 30 million. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's just a little few pictures of Mozambique, and I don't know if we have time for questions, but if not, I heard a second bell. Does that mean we're done? Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll be around and be glad to answer any questions. Yes. Yeah. Thank you guys too.